Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're thrilled that you have taken the time out of your week to join us. We at TripleLift have been thinking about this event kind of as the industry's first data front, the nerdiest of all the fronts. Will there be big musical acts? No, certainly not. None of the artists returned our calls. But we are really, really happy that you're all here with us tonight. We are, as an industry, right now upon the most meaningful shift in how we do business together that we've experienced in the short history of our industry, the 10 or 20, 30 now of the open internet. The third-party cookie is already gone for half of the web. And make no mistake, it will not be long until it is gone completely. Same time, regulators across the globe are aggressively clamping down on practices meant to protect consumer privacy. Our world has already changed. The question everyone is asking this week is, when will the last remaining browser company to use cookies be ready to complete the job? We haven't been asking that at TripleLift. We've been thinking about things very differently. About 3 years ago, we started asking a different set of questions. We said, given all the miraculous change in technology since the invention of the cookie or third-party identifiers, what can we do to create a better system for everybody that kind of is true to the original kind of founding principles of the open web? We asked, can we use these technologies to create a highly performant targeting system that is not dependent on a cross-site identifier? Can we do it in a way that it is easy and inexpensive for publishers to integrate with that system so that we can protect their first-party data so they can focus on building the audiences and the content that we all want to buy? And importantly, can we do it without the reach limitations of third-party IDs and eliminate data fees so that advertisers can put their money against working media? And we're here to tell you today that you can. And that's really what we wanted to gather everybody to discuss and to celebrate, a different way of thinking about a way forward for all of us in the industry. So we're really excited to dig in. But before we do, please welcome to the stage Beyonce. I'm told Beyonce told us to stop calling her or she's going to get her lawyers involved. So anyway, even better, we're really excited to have some of our partners and clients who have been using TripleLift Audiences here to talk about their view of the way forward for the industry. So please welcome our moderator for today's panel, our Chief Business Officer at TripleLift, the great Sonia Christensen. There she is. Good, Sonia.
All right. Obviously, this week is Taylor Swift, Dave. Come on. All right, I'm Sonia. It's wonderful to see so many clients and partners here. Chief Business Officer at TripleLift. I've been with the company 7.5 years. But more importantly, I would like to invite my wonderful panelists. So why don't you come on up and join me here? We can take a seat. We have Paul Bannister, Chief Strategy Officer at Raptive. We have this is nice little intro vibes. We've got Ash Grant, Head of Global Digital Trading at Expedia Group. Welcome, Ash. We have Marion Sayer, Client Solutions Director at Kepler. And finally, Jenny Harvey, Director of Business Development at LiveRamp. Join us on the stage here. We should have done like intro songs. I've always wanted to be able to like choose my intro song. I'm in like my late 30s. I have not yet gotten an opportunity. So maybe next time. So let's just do a quick round of intros here. Why don't each of us just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your focus in your role?
My name is Jenny, and I work at LiveRamp. And the main focus of my role, hi Parker, is working with demand-side platforms and supply-side platforms to adopt our durable, privacy-centric identifier, the ramp ID.
And hi, everyone. I'm Marian. I work for Kepler Group. We're a small agency focusing on retail, financial, and media clients. And the primary focus of my job is to advise our clients on how to activate their media strategies in a cookieless world in a way that's expansive and incremental to the business.
Hi everyone, I'm Ash. I'm head of trading at Expedia Group, and we are a fully in-house media agency, and we service our clients, our internal clients, Brand Expedia, Hotels.com, and Vrbo, focusing on delivering the best experience for our for travelers overall.
Chief Strategy Officer at Cafe Media. Oh my gosh. I run all the revenue teams, and my job is making sure we maximize revenue for all the creators and publishers we work with. We work with about 5,000, and also maximizing performance and results for all of our advertisers.
All right. Thank you all. So we've got agency, brand, publisher, platform. We're set. Lock and load. Okay. Did anyone see any news this week that changes user targeting? Any? They did that just for this event. Thank you. I'm curious for the audience, like quick show of hands, how many expected that delay? Okay, about 50%. So obviously the Google announcement changes some things. How do you each interpret these continued delays? Like when you heard the news, were you surprised, relieved, frustrated, some other core human emotion? Why don't we start with you?
I think the delay from fall of 2024 to early 2025 is a short one. Like the team that I'm on, we're still going to focus on working with platforms like TripleLift to adopt our identifier, the ramp ID, and provide an authenticated traffic solution to our publishers because we want to have people-based marketing for the 450 brands that LiveRamp is working with today. So if you don't have a cookieless solution now, today is the time to adopt one. Don't wait.
Thank you for that plug.
And I would agree with that. I think, if anything, it gives advertisers more runway to catch up to some of the bigger advertisers in the space if you feel like you have more work to do. But I think we all kind of saw it coming. And again, this one seems like it just is giving advertisers more time. We know it's coming and it's inevitable. And to me, too, this one was interesting because it seemed very regulatory focused, as opposed to the other ones that seemed more, oh, Google's not ready. So I think that's good, and we know that the teams are doing their due diligence, and the final product will be hopefully a successful one.
Cool. Not to be flippant, but when the news came out, it was pretty much business as usual. I mean, I'm of the opinion that if your sole strategy revolves around third-party cookies, I think there's something fundamentally wrong with your digital marketing strategy. So, I mean, we're ultimately looking to drive new travelers, new clients to our loyalty program, and how we go about doing that is, the parameters might change, the tool set might change, but as I said, it's business as usual.
I think so the way I see it is like the world is dividing into like two camps. There are people who are going to be ready for third-party cookies to go away whenever it happens, and I think 6 more months or whatever it is a good thing for those people. And there are people who are going to be nowheresville, and those people are going to scramble at the last minute, and it's going to be chaos for them. And so a little bit, it's like this is sort of like the last chance to get yourself into the right bucket and not be in that bucket that's going to be at the last minute really in a lot of trouble. So I think this is kind of like the hopefully the last lifeline that people get.
Yeah, and also, I mean, regardless of their deprecation timeline for the cookie, I think it's 47% of the open web already doesn't have an ID. And that number's only going to go up. So I'm curious, maybe I'll start with either Marian or Ash on this one. How are you reaching those audiences today? Like, is that part of your media strategy? Ash, I think you kind of just alluded to the fact that it most certainly is. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, so context is a big driver for just general volume for us. And as I said, if your sole strategy revolves around third-party cookies, only third-party cookies, then, as I said, you're probably doing something fundamentally wrong. In terms of how we go about, I guess we put out a study that came out last year. So around 3 in 5 travelers don't actually know where they're going to be booking their next holiday. And just aimlessly chasing those users around the internet just because they fit into some third-party data set or like they're part of some taxonomy somewhere isn't necessarily the best way to go about reaching those users, or at least communicating to them effectively, right? In terms of how we actually go about doing that on like a day-to-day basis, it's being in the right place at the right time. It's effectively what marketers have been doing for years. I mean, this idea of targeting cookies is a relatively small portion or small thing compared to the multiple years of marketing that have been going on, right? And leaning into those kind of more historic practices around context is, it's crucial, it's key, and it's effectively cheaper potentially too, if you're not necessarily incurring some of those data costs.
And Marion, do you want to share your take on that from Kepler?
Yeah, I think from an agency perspective, regardless of these changes from Google, we've always pitched a diversified portfolio targeting. And so this just adds another layer of it. And when we talk to clients and say, okay, your media program has ABC in it right now, we think you should add D. We're always talking about the incremental value that D can add. And now the cookie-less targeting aspect is becoming a bigger part of the conversation, but that's not to say it wasn't before. Like, we've always had contextual targeting. I remember keyword contextual targeting from companies like GrapeShot, and we would get super granular with it, and now it's just smarter and bigger and more important, and that's the way that we talk about it with our clients.
Yep. Paul, this one's for you. Mr. Panel, you were quoted in the press today saying, Google's recent delay to third-party cookie deprecation is only a small lifeline for publishers and advertisers that haven't fully adopted new cookieless solutions. Cookies are going away, and getting ahead of that deadline with solutions is a critical part of readiness. Can you talk about Raptive's approach to that readiness?
So I think it's hearing the advertiser side is interesting because I think it speaks to like how publishers need to get ready. For advertisers, you need to figure out like for your business and what you do, you need a portfolio solution, but you can kind of pick 2 or 3 and say like these work for my business and my needs, and that works. Whereas from a publisher perspective, you kind of need, I don't say you need to support everything, but you need to be open because you need to work with a lot of different advertisers who have a lot of different strategies and work a lot of different ways. So for us, it has been really kind of building out the foundation of a lot of those components, whether it is partnering with RampID or partnering with TripleLift Audiences or working with clean rooms or building out our own contextual data and building all these different aspects of what we're doing. So that way when advertisers come to us, we're ready to work with them on all those fronts. So I think it really is kind of building all those foundational elements.
Great. And then Jenny, this one's for you. It's clear that the industry still needs to move forward with exploring different solutions. At LiveRamp, what are some innovations that you're seeing that could help define future advertising strategies?
Yeah, I actually have 2 to present. So one is PAIR. So Google PAIR is DV360's cookieless authenticated solution. It stands for Publisher Advertiser Identity Reconciliation, which is a mouthful.
Wow.
But it enables marketer demand to tie in with our authenticated traffic solution, and it sits outside of Privacy Sandbox. But we see that as the solution for DV360 buyers to work with LiveRamp, and with our recent acquisition of Habu, we are the only partner to support Google PAIR campaigns with DV360 buyers globally. So that's a big solution that we're offering. And then another one is conversion APIs. So we have a lot of advertisers that are doing conversion APIs to attribute online measurement where there's no cookie. And a lot of these platforms are also using it to do optimizations. So an example is like an abandoned cart. Say I am shopping for shoes and I put a pair of shoes in my cart and I'm using Safari as a browser. That is something that platforms like Meta, Pinterest, and Snap find very valuable because they're going to use that identifier to retarget me in a future campaign. So
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear about PAIR because we needed another acronym.
I know.
We were getting a little low. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk a bit about performance. I think one of the biggest collective fears from folks in this room, whether you'll say it or not, is how these new targeting strategies will actually perform. And we'll share a little bit about this later, but over the first few months of testing across verticals with TripleLift Audiences, we've actually seen that we can match or exceed the performance of cookies with broader reach. I'll start with either Ash or Marion on this one. How are you thinking about performance, and what are you seeing when you're not using a cross-site identifier like a cookie? Like, are you seeing that alternative targeting solutions can measure up as far as performance goes?
Do you want to go first, or shall I?
Sure, I can go.
Yeah.
I think that for us, we never speak about performance without also talking about measurement. And aside from things like conversions API, incrementality measurement, and MMMs or media mix modeling is really important for a lot of our advertisers. And it allows us to measure the incremental benefit of our programs to the business without cookies involved. So that's really a cornerstone of a lot of the media programs of our Kepler clients. And it allows us to measure impact of adding in cookieless targeting to the existing mix. So that's kind of how we're thinking about it. And if you don't have that overarching measurement strategy that is going to survive in a cookieless world, then performance isn't really a conversation you should be having yet.
Yeah, I mean, plus one of those points. I mean, it's having a very robust measurement strategy that underpins everything is ultimately how you make your decisions, right? Whether things change and how ad tech fluctuates, what you can and can't do, having that solid foundation with regards to measurement is how a business stays afloat, and anything else is just a signal that influences that measurement strategy.
Paul, over to you. As far as privacy goes from the publisher side, what are some things that publishers are doing to make sure they can still provide value to advertisers, but also respect privacy of your readers? Like, how are you balancing that?
So I think actually in your question is like one of the most important words is value. I think privacy and value are like sort of like the trade-up where users are totally willing to give some information about themselves in return for some real value. And I think it's about finding those moments where you can do those things. So my personal story that happened recently is my wife and my 12-year-old want to run a 5K. And my wife comes to me and says, can you print out one of those couch to 5K things? I want to figure out how to do this and we'll figure it out together. I said, fine. So I Google couch to 5K, top result, one of our sites. It's a site about running, obviously. And I go there, I read an article. It's really good, really helpful about, what to do. And there's like a printable, couch to 5K plan. I'm like, this is great. This is what I want. So I click the link and it's like, pops up, give us your email address and we'll give you the PDF. And I was like, ooh, our team did that. Like that, for one, I was like, go team. But for two, I was like, that's awesome. Like that's exactly the moment where like I, as a user, I'm like really engaged, really looking for real value. And I got that. And now I'm getting emails from that site. And now I got the couch to 5K thing. I'm like, it's the connection is made very strong there. So I think to your point, value and privacy are on a connected spectrum. And you've got to find those moments of value to help engage users.
Great. And then Marion, from the agency side, Kepler, I understand, works with some major financial services clients. How are you navigating the balance between effective targeting and respecting user privacy, given many of those financial clients would have, require a really high level of trust and security? How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we think about it in two parts. So you have your existing first-party database that you actually probably want to be more careful about because they know, oh, I'm an existing customer and they might be marketing because of XYZ reason. And then you have the general prospect universe. And for that second group, it's a little bit easier, I think, because also the industry has moved towards broad targeting and leaning into machine learning and all of the algorithms. So that's where we've seen success in that regard. And then for the first-party data sets, working with partners like LiveRamp to help find those users in a more respectful way and making sure that also the ad formats that we're using are from a consumer perspective are something that they can get behind and feel comfortable with. So I think we think about it two different ways depending on the type of campaign.
Can you talk a little bit more about the ad formats being like consumer centric? Like, what does that mean to you?
It might be a little bit of a hot take, but
We
at
like
Kepler,
those. We like those.
at Kepler, we like to focus on ad formats that are attention grabbing but not in your face. So mobile app inventory is something that comes up all the time with us, and even just mobile inventory, like on Safari. So that's a conversation we usually have pretty early on with our clients, and talking about how we can find the most incremental ad formats that are really going to drive a high quality user and not just high volume of clicks, for example.
Great, thank you for that. Ash, Expedia has already been pretty ahead of the curve as it relates to targeting. You have more of a focus on incrementality. Can you talk a bit about your growth strategy and how it's working?
I mean, in terms of growth strategy, I mean, it's never. I mean, we follow this kind of the test and learn kind of strategy, right? I mean, when we consider things like pricing and, how much third-party cookies cost when you overlay it to your media and everything like that, it's never necessarily a prohibitive thing. But just having a robust measurement strategy, as I mentioned previously, allows you to make those decisions more effectively. So it's not necessarily just about being scared because something's expensive. It's having a measurement strategy in place and having the confidence to determine whether it's actually working or not based on data signals that you determine to be valuable.
You were telling me also about some research that you guys recently did. Do you want to share a little bit about that and what you found?
That was the
Contextual.
Yeah. So within the thank you for that. Yeah, just needs to be reminded.
I got you.
Thanks. So the piece of research that we did, it's effectively a path to purchase report for travellers. I think I mentioned it slightly earlier, but so 3 in 5 travellers don't necessarily know where they're going to be booking their next trip to. And on that journey, they consume around 140 pages worth of content before they actually get to that point. And being in the right place at the right time is crucial, right? So being in that contextually relevant environment is key. As I said previously, we don't necessarily want to be chasing a user across the internet with an Expedia ad, whether they're just trying to, figure out how to do a 5K. I mean, that's not relevant. But when they're looking at things like travel content, whether they're on Condé Nast Traveler, so on and so forth, it's important for us to be there with that message once they're ready to actually make that decision. And that's where things like native ads really do shine in those environments, because it's not necessarily as intrusive as maybe like a homepage takeover ad on an irrelevant site, but I promise there won't be any saltier than that. You can have that laugh. It's making sure they're in the right place and adding to the user experience whilst they consume their content, because users are consuming content, they're not consuming ads, unfortunately, as we all like to hope they or wish they were.
Thanks, Ash. Let's talk about measurement. Jenny, let's turn to you on this one. How do you think we'll have to adapt our approach to media measurement when we move fully to alternative ID solutions?
At LiveRamp, we focus on the Ramp ID campaigns that are run to be 100% measurable, because it is a durable ID that can be measured in cookieless environments, on mobile app, and in CTV. But I think LiveRamps, with the acquisition of Habu, we're allowing advertisers, brands, publishers to collaborate with their data in our data collaboration platform. And so allowing them to do activation and measurement in the programmatic ecosystem is how we'll move forward. So working together.
Yeah. Paul, from the publisher side, do you want to add anything about how you think we'll have to adapt our approach to measurement when we move fully alternative IDs?
I think, this is sort of like a bigger answer a little bit, but like cookies, as used for targeting, as used for measurement, are easy and they're scaled, but they're like messy and they're inaccurate and they have a whole bunch of problems. And I do think that new forms of measurement, whether they are things that are like directly attributable, like things that LiveRamp is doing, or things like MMM models that obviously have a lot of value in the future, I think those things are ultimately way more accurate, way more useful, can way more drive a strategy in a smart way. So for us as a publisher, like I think about how do we work with each brand to understand what is their unique measurement challenge and what's the right data we can give to them so they can, figure out for them what's working. So I think it is that case-by-case approach.
Thank you for that. I'll ask Ash this one. We have heard from multiple brands at TripleLift that they're worried about how high the cost will be for cookieless solutions. So whether it's first-party data or alternative IDs. So it might be great data, but the question is, are you worried about how that cost will impact your media strategy overall?
Yeah, good question. It's, as I mentioned previously, it's not necessarily about using or thinking of cost as a prohibitive factor. It's ensuring that the money that you are paying for these solutions are actually driving the value that you actually need them to. So sure, you might determine that a particular strategy that worked previously wasn't necessarily being as fruitful as you initially thought. But in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people would probably agree, that's a win, right? It's one less thing that you need to consider as part of your overall testing strategy. So, I mean, I feel like I'm just rambling on a little bit, but just my general thoughts are cost shouldn't be something that people are scared of. It's, I think there's always a cost to doing business, but just ensure that you have robust measurement strategies and solutions in place and test into it with confidence and just, once again, be grateful for the signal that you get to be able to make more effective decisions later on down the line.
Sticking with the theme of costs, as far as targeting goes, I've seen estimates that anywhere from 25 to 30% of media budgets currently go to data fees. That's a lot. So open question. I'd love to hear from all of you on this one. What do you think is going to happen to the third-party data landscape as we move entirely to alternative targeting solutions? Because that's a huge part of our ecosystem. You want to start?
LiveRamp works with 150 data providers in our data store for third-party targeting, and we will be migrating all of those onto the Ramp ID so that they can be targeted. I can't really speak to the CPM fees for customers, but we are making it a solution for existing customers to use.
Great.
And I think from my perspective, and actually from a consumer perspective, the consumers aren't going anywhere. You just have to find them in different ways. And if that is done through something like a Ramp ID, tapping into your third-party inventory, if you have a robust enough measurement solution to show the value of that to your teams and whoever you need to sell it to, then that's what's really important. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to go anywhere so much as going to be accessed in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, hello. I would just say that in addition to that, kind of the ones lacking the veracity needed to actually bring value to a marketer, I think those will generally suffer more than those that actually deliver good quality data segments. So I think there'll be a reduction in general third-party data providers, but hopefully quality should increase.
Totally agree with all that, and definitely that point. I think accuracy will go up, number of providers will go down. Sorry, some data providers. But I think that's a good thing for the ecosystem and positive in general. I think also it creates a great opportunity for publishers who do have unique and different data than what advertisers do. I mean, again, my example I think is pretty strong. Not only did we get an email of somebody who's doing this, but also talk about somebody that New Balance or Nike or whoever should be targeting right now, and those opportunities are created that I think give publishers a new opportunity while not taking anything away from how advertisers want to run their businesses, which is great for both sides.
Another one for the full panel, open question. Can each of you share a piece of advice for either advertisers or publishers preparing for the full transition to a cookieless digital ad world? Or what not to do. That's okay too. That can be just as helpful. I learned that my hairstylist told me, if you don't know what you want, tell me what you don't want. I'm like, oh shit, I know that. Okay, I can definitely do that. So let's go there.
I think the advice I would give to brands or publishers is to build a robust first-party data strategy, and a way to do that is through authentications. And I think that what most brands and advertisers don't know, or even publishers, I think Paul knows, but is that there are really unique ways to get authentications. You can get a click-through from a coupon. You can have customer feedback in surveys that will generate an authentication. And you should use as many ways as possible to get that consumer data to make your strategy really strong.
My advice would be to test, but to do it smartly. Don't take the next 6 months to run every test into the ground and spend a ton of money, because while these tools like Ramp ID are great and really strong for the future, the scale is small and you risk spending a ton of money and just driving up frequency out of control. So I think it's really about diving into the needs of your specific business and which tools are going to be best matched for that based on the data you do have available, and then creating a really smart testing plan that will give you learnings that will be applicable in 2025.
Yeah, +1 on the testing plan. But I'll just add to, actually as an advertiser or a media buyer, lean on the publishing partners that you're working with. I mean, they hold the audience, they hold the content, and they effectively know a better way of reaching your audience, probably better than you do. So lean into the partners that you're working with, and think of the consumer.
I agree with all that. I'll also say like the very non-technical, but I think almost one of the most important things with all of this is building your brand. I think that whether you're a publisher or an advertiser, if you're relying on Google sending you traffic, or you're relying on Amazon search, or you're relying on these massive companies like sending stuff your way, that's fine, but you want to build that brand so your audience wants to come back to you, your consumers want to come back to you, people trust you, people, again, like it gives them more reasons to want to do things with you. And when it gets to like the tactics, we really see a huge difference where, for us, the publishers that have the biggest brands also have the highest authentication rates, like by massive amounts. It's like if people know you and they trust you, they will share with you, and that builds so many parts of your business in a positive way. So I think that's a really important thing that we say a lot to our publishers and advertiser partners.
Great. My last question before we open it up to the audience. Fast forward to whatever day in 2025 that this actually happens. I'm thinking back to like Y2K, like predictions of what will actually happen. What do you think will actually happen on day one? You go into the office or hybrid, whatever. What's going on? What do your reports say?
Business as usual.
Okay.
On day one, you're probably looking at yesterday's data,
Yeah.
which is still fine.
Okay, day two. Day two. You got me on that. Day two.
But yeah, I agree. I think if you're a smart advertiser, you've taken the steps to be prepared for that to happen, and now we have so much more time. And to Paul's point earlier, like this is kind of your last chance to do it. And I hope that advertisers have the tools in their toolbox to be able to continue to tell that story even when cookies aren't around.
Yeah, that was a more eloquent way of putting what I said.
Either of you want to share predictions? Business as usual?
I think I divide the world into two buckets. If you're ready, yeah, it'll probably be a little rocky and there'll be some bumps and things you need to figure out and some broken things here and there, but you'll be fine. If you're not ready, chaos and hysteria, and good luck. So,
Dark, Paul.
I agree. I think if you're prepared, you're in a good spot, but I have platforms now, and I'm like, why did you wait? So do it now.
Yeah.
Don't
Do it
wait.
now. Do it now. Okay, we're going to open it up to some audience questions. I think that we have a couple of mics floating around. This is a safe space, so you can ask anything. Who would like to start? Come on, guys. Nothing? No questions? There's a question.
Hi, really enjoyed this. This is great, thank you. You have talked a lot about the importance of measurement. Like we've heard measurement a lot here, and one thing as we move into this cookieless world, a lot of measurement solutions are cookie-based. So I'd love to just kind of hear how you guys are exploring kind of what your options are and just how you're navigating that, so you can anchor kind of this new world in measurement, and also like what you would like to see from the industry.
At Kepler, we talk about a layered approach for measurement, and we recommend this to all of our advertisers to the degree that they can take it on. And the top part is MMM, and really taking a look at incrementality across your entire program. And then in the middle is lift testing or incrementality testing within the platforms to dive a little bit deeper. And then the final layer is any platform metrics, which today are partially cookie-based, and tomorrow or in 2025 might be conversions API based or something similar. So we think about it like that, so that you're making your overall investment decisions based on the impact to the business, but you're still able to drill down into the more granular parts of your program within each of your platforms if that's something that's of interest and that you see drive impact down the line.
Yeah, I mean, once again, sorry to sound like a broken record, but +1 on that again. So MMM is a big part of what we do and how we, first of all, measure and determine whether what's working from a strategy, channel perspective, and down. However, once again, what I mentioned a little bit earlier was only your signals change based on how they impact your MMM. So ensuring that you have robust signals, that you're confident and you trust them to influence, any later decisions down the line, that's how we approach. How we approach measurement.
Other questions? It's free advice. You can ask anything you want. There we go. We got one there. Yeah, we got a mic. She's coming to you.
Alyssa Boyle with Ad Exchanger, not to scare everybody with a reporter asking a question,
Okay,
but
I said safe space.
it is. There's obviously a lot of news about what's going on with the privacy sandbox. Is there anything you could share from any early tests you might have done, just a bit of color on what you think might be working and what's not?
Paul, I can tell you're just burning to take this one.
So I badly paraphrase Winston Churchill. It's the worst solution except for all the others. It is broken and messed up and problematic and anti-competitive, but it actually has got a lot of cool stuff and like really powerful. And once they fix things, if they ever fix things, it can be really good. So a lot of our early testing is like it has all these latency problems that we're dealing with. It has a lot of targeting problems. We're running end-to-end tests right now that are like barely working, but it is beginning to kind of move forward, and that is positive. And again, we really do think it is pretty powerful in the long run. I mean, ultimately, while I totally agree about first-party data and the tremendous value there, there's always going to be a lot of people who you don't know who they are, and tools like Sandbox help with those people, which are valuable people too. So,
Any other hot takes on Privacy Sandbox? No. Okay. Lukewarm takes, welcome. Okay. All right. Any other questions from folks in the audience? Okay. That is a wrap on our panel. I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you so much.
thank you.
And next up, please join me in welcoming TripleLift's VP of Product, coolest name in ad tech, Ari Behringer, to share more.
All right, so building upon that legacy for innovation, we're really excited to be talking about data targeting as the next wave of innovation for TripleLift. We've done a lot of research. We've spent a lot of time market testing. And today I'm really excited to announce the US general availability of our brand new audience targeting product we call TripleLift Audiences. TripleLift Audiences, woo! Yeah. TripleLift Audiences is the audience targeting and addressability solution for the modern, more private internet. What does that mean? Let's find out. So we did a lot of work to benchmark the market before we ever brought this product to market. I'm going to share a little bit of our research with you today. We're going to talk about how TripleLift Audiences compares, and then we're going to talk about how it works, because it is really unique and different relative to what most audience solutions do. So diving in, let's start with cost. According to the Winterberry Group, did a study in 2023, $8.3 billion in total was spent on ad targeting data in 2023. And we've learned from our clients that there's about $1.50 CPM per segment, and that some brands will spend as much as 30% of their total media budget on audience targeting. That means that's 30% of that ad budget that isn't going to working media. So this is a bit of a scorecard that we're going to keep track of things as we move along. We're going to cover data quality, reach and scale, and how future-proof other audience solutions are as we look forward. Just keep in mind as we move forward, up to 30% of ad budgets go towards targeting data today. But what do you actually get for that? Well, today, data quality is questionable. Where does that data come from? How is it collected? How old is it? Is it still relevant? Is it consented? Does it have the right permissions to be used? Well, interestingly, audience verification vendor TruthSet did a study, and they found that only 51% of the email and postal addresses that are used as the underlying match for all this data are actually correct. That's a huge gap. And we've learned that they're scale limited. Our own data shows that there's an ID or a third-party cookie on only 53% of the ad requests that come into our exchange from publishers. Half the internet is not addressable with most audience targeting solutions. And then let's look at ID solutions for a moment. Great representation on the panel from LiveRamp today. Thank you very much. Great partner of ours. If third-party cookies were to go away tomorrow, based on the volume of ID solutions, based on email addresses that we see flow into our system today, only 1.5% of all ad requests would have an email-based identity solution present on it from a publisher. If we look at a probabilistic solution, in total, only 27.8% of all ad requests that flow into TripleLift have a probabilistic ID solution on them. These solutions are incredibly valuable when they're available. And we heard of that value from Ginny just a moment ago. And we are proud to support those when they're present. But there's a massive gap in this in this solution space. So if we look at the entire scorecard, things start to not add up. We're spending a whole lot of money for questionable data quality. It's limited to only half of the web. And it's predominantly not future-proof. It relies on third-party cookies when an alternative ID is not present. So let's talk a little bit about how TripleLift Audiences compares. Let's start with cost. Pretend for a moment you have a budget, $1 million. The average media CPM that you're targeting is $4.50. And you have an average data CPM of $1.50. In most audience solutions, that's going to deliver 167 million impressions. We've done something awesome with TripleLift Audiences, because with TripleLift Audiences, that delivers 222 million impressions. It's 33% more impressions. And why can we do that? Well, this one's simple. No data fees. There's no extra data cost for using TripleLift Audiences. It's not added into the media. It's not tacked on as a separate fee somewhere else. It's just included, period. So how is this possible? How is it possible for us to be able to do this? Well, we went on a journey as part of our learning journey when we did all the research that we did, and we had 3 insights that came out of that. Insight 1 is that actually publisher first-party data is the largest single source of data on the internet. Every publisher has it. It works in every browser environment. It works on mobile. It works everywhere. The second insight is that there's been tremendous advancements in natural language processing, machine learning, and AI in the last several years. And we believe that it's untapped for generating audience solutions. And insight 3 is that addressability is actually a spectrum, from ID-less, where no IDs exist at all, to cross-domain IDs, which is where third-party cookies live. And that is where the industry's been focused on in this spectrum for a long time, and we've not really paid as much attention to the rest of that spectrum. So in response to this, we actually went out in 2022 and acquired a Zurich-based first-party data platform called 1+X. Amazing company, amazing technology, masters of AI, machine learning, even LLMs before they became popular. For those of you that don't know large language models, the same kind of things use the power of stuff like ChatGPT. And they have helped us create a new solution that marries the capabilities of a first-party data publisher DMP with our SSP. And we've effectively spread their technology around our entire publisher footprint. So now every TripleLift publisher effectively has this DMP technology ready to use, ready to go, embedded by us. So what does that mean? Well, the old way of doing targeting relied on a third-party cookie, seeing the exact same ID across every single website. And that's how you track someone's behavior, their journey from start to finish. You find out what their interests are by seeing what the sites are that they visit. But TripleLift Audiences enables targeting across the entire spectrum I talked about. On this end of the spectrum, you have cross-domain identified. This is third-party cookie land. This is where LiveRamp lives. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's no ID at all. These customers have turned off IDs in their browser. They just don't exist. Maybe they change all the time, so they're unstable because they're using a VPN. And in the middle, you have first-party identified. So this is where a publisher is able to put a first-party ID, as simple as a first-party cookie sometimes. There's also a solution in the space called pre-bid shared ID, which most publishers have adopted. For cross-domain identified, TripleLift has partnered with LiveRamp and ID5 to help us solve for this segment of the identity spectrum. But where we've really innovated and leveraged 1+X is in first-party identified and IDless, where we've created cross-domain audiences without cross-domain IDs. And some of you are looking at me like, what? Excuse me? Well, I'm going to tell you how we did it. So, step one, with this technology that we've acquired from 1+X and integrated so deeply into TripleLift, we use natural language processing and machine learning to basically organize all the online content that flows through our exchange. We look at every piece of content across hundreds of data points and analyze that content to understand how it compares to every other piece of content that we understand. So we get this, something that looks like the graphic on the screen. You get neighborhoods of content. You have content about music, content about travel, content about food. But the other thing that we do is we look at something called the co-occurrence of content. So how frequently does type 1 of content appear with type 2 of content? If I had asked you 6 months ago about the Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift and asked you how close those neighborhoods of content are together, you would have thought they're pretty far apart. If I asked you now, they're going to be very close together because they have appeared so often together in popular culture. And the reason that we're able to do that is because we have a live view of the internet flowing through our system every single day that allows us to update this map and the relationships between these neighborhoods of content in real time with every ad request that hits our system. Step two is that for each publisher, we observe user interactions based on first-party IDs. That is an ID that only works for each publisher. And so we now have profiles, just like we do with third-party cookies, except they're built on a per-publisher basis instead of being across the entire internet. And the step three, and this is the coolest part, is that we combine those two capabilities together. And this graphic is somewhat of a visual representation of kind of what's happening. The colored areas are all of the content neighborhoods that come together, and our system figures out how they come together, and it figures out the relationships from them in terms of how close they are together and how kind of spatially oriented they are against one another. But then what we do is we take those first-party data profiles and figure out where those people that are visiting those neighborhoods exist within those neighborhoods. So I'm sure if you live in a city, there's certain areas of town that you tend to go because you like the restaurants or you like the way the houses are designed or something like that. Same thing happens here. People visit certain kinds of content. We use this to create a model that we can then bounce any other piece of content against. So we say, given any page on the internet, we can hit it against this model and predict the audiences that are likely to come out the other side. Thus, cross-domain audiences without cross-domain IDs. Yeah! It's an amazing feature. We've presented this hundreds of times now, I feel like, and nobody else is doing it this way. And it is really cool, and it leverages the latest technology. And because there's no cross-domain IDs, everything's isolated per publisher, it is more privacy-friendly than the existing system. And because it's based on content, it scales. TripleLift Audiences today is scaled to 90% of the ad requests that flow through our system. 30 billion daily impressions, more than 13 billion pieces of content, and 1 billion first-party consumer profiles, which is incredible. So that small scale problem that we saw with IDs, this is a complement to. When those IDs are present, it is still the best data that's going to be available on that request, and we encourage that it be used. When that data is not available, this is the answer. The way that this works is as a deal ID that you buy from TripleLift today. We have 1,300 plus off-the-shelf segments, including age and gender predictions, behavioral interest segments. These are made because we observe those first-party IDs and the way that they move around those publisher websites. So it's actually real observations of people's real movements. Of course, there's contextual segments. There's a special kind of category that we call a purchase intent segment that's really focused on a certain type of content on the web using the smarts of 1+X. And we have conquesting segments. Think of these as like you're going to buy your competitor's keywords in AdWords. But you can target content about your competitor to show an ad on those pages. Since we started testing this back in July of this past year, more than 50 brands have run TripleLift Audiences, and we have a 90% quarter-over-quarter campaign renewal rate, which is a strong signal that folks are liking what is happening here. But don't just take my word for it. Let's compare side by side, and we'll get to some results here in a moment. So TripleLift Audiences has no data fees. It's scaled because of first-party publisher data and our AI predictions, and every segment has a 30-day refresh. So no segment membership is more than 30 days old unless somebody has visited another page and reset the timer, which means data is fresh. It works on 90% of the web today in all browser environments. Cookies or no cookies, IDs or no IDs. And no cross-domain IDs are required, but they're valuable when they're there. But more so, we support custom brand segments. So if you have your own definition for what a segment means to you, you tell us that. We're going to build it just for you, and you can use it within a couple days. We support first-party data match. So if you want to bring your own ramp IDs or ID5 IDs into our system, fantastic. We will go target against those exact IDs that we see out across our entire publisher footprint. But what we also do is support what we call an act-alike audience. An act-alike audience is similar to a lookalike, but on a lookalike, you might say, does it have segment 1 and does it have segment 2? Okay, it looks like it. But what we actually do is because we're using first-party IDs, we can observe the frequency and recency of those segments as well, and thus have the ability to say that someone actually behaves like someone else because they have visited the same kind of content X number of times within the Y last days, 3 times in the last 30 days, or like whatever it is. So it's more advanced, more precise than a simple lookalike. Case studies. I said we've run with more than 50 brands. I've just cherry-picked a few here, but they all show similar things. For a financial services company, we actually delivered 3x more impressions than they were expecting for their scale. 60% more efficient CPM, and 25% higher click-through rate. For a consumer electronics brand, we hit 25% lower data fees. That means they were spending 25% of their ad budget on data before. They don't have to spend that with us, because it's just bundled in, and they put that right back into reaching more customers with more impressions. And then for a big box retailer, we delivered 28% more efficient CPM. Why is this all possible? It's possible because we're serving against all impressions available to us across the entire internet, not just on the half of the web where there is an ID. Part of that is because those ID-less impressions today are undervalued in the market. You talk to a publisher and they'll tell you, yeah, I'm getting almost $2 CPM for an impression on Chrome. That exact same impression in Safari might be 10 cents at the worst. So there's market dynamics here that drive this. But for publishers, it's great too. It's actually delivering 28% higher CPMs for publishers on average because it's raising the value of their otherwise ID-less inventory. So it's like a great virtuous system. Publishers win, advertisers win. It's awesome. So looking ahead for TripleLift Audiences, soon we're developing TripleLift Audiences powered signals for brands, agencies, and DSPs. This is a collaboration opportunity. If you're interested in this, if you want to work with this on this and what it looks like in the future, please get in touch. We're very happy to work with you on this. We're going to be bringing this to Europe, Canada, and Australia very soon. We'll have an off-the-shelf deals library that's available. Instead of just having to call us up all the time, there's going to be some ready to go. We're working on audience insights tools to be able to provide audience insights about who you've reached using the same data set that enables us to do all the targeting. And we're integrating topics from Privacy Sandbox as another signal to help power this. In the later bucket, we have self-serve TripleLift Audiences, a deals UX that basically lets you come in and just set up your own deals, set up your own audience targeting, view reporting. Today, to enable a TripleLift Audiences deal, you just call us, you send us an email, we set it all up for you, we give you a deal ID, you go run it in your platform of choice. It's that simple. We have managed service available too, if you desire that. But this is a self-serve version that has been highly demanded by some segments of our customers. We're working on advanced measurement capabilities. Measurement was talked about a lot in the panel, and it's something that we have a distinct focus on because there aren't ready-made solutions for this ID-less space, but there are possibilities to be able to measure it. And then protected audience, we're actively working on that right now and participating in it. For a brand that is building protected audiences, we can port those one-to-one as an interest group into the protected audience environment. So it works in OpenRTB, and it'll work in the protected audience environment. TripleLift Audiences, to wrap here, is the audience targeting and addressability solution for the modern, more private internet. It is a better mousetrap, period. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to this over the last couple years, who have done the research and put in the work. It represents a huge part of our company. Thank you to all of you. This moment is yours. Cheers.
I learned so much. Listen, thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you. We're really honored that you would spend the time and join the discussion. Now's the fun part. We have a lot of surprises in store. They do not involve talking about data, although you are totally welcome to talk about data if you want. We have many members of the TripleLift team here tonight. Our Chief Revenue Officer in the shocking pink jacket, Adina Sher, Chief Product Officer. You met Sonia. I see Jen Lee over here. You know the whole team. We have our whole account team here, so we're excited to spend some time with you and have some fun. We've got food and drinks. Thank you again for being here, and let's get on with it.